All right, so uh, you know how crucial it is to really grasp these complex issues facing India if you want to ace those UPSC exams.
Yeah, definitely.
And when it comes to these issues, well, honestly, fewer is critical, frankly, is worrying
Yeah,
as the whole situation with nutrition in the country.
absolutely.
So that is why we're doing this deep dive into this recent Lancet study on global nutrition targets.
Right.
This isn't just, some boring academic stuff.
Yeah, no.
This is the kind of knowledge that could really help you write those killer essays in mains and even, could pop up in prelims.
Oh, for sure.
So this is real deal stuff.
It really is. It's about, the health and the future of India. And to be honest, the findings are a bit of a wake-up call, I'd say.
Okay, so let's break this down. So we're talking about global nutrition targets, or as they call them, GNTs.
Right.
These were set by the World Health Assembly back in 2012 with the aim of hitting them by 2025.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
And the Lancet study is basically saying not even close.
Yeah. Globally, the progress has been, well, slow, I would say. And when it comes to India, the study, it points out some really alarming trends.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, anemia rates have been basically the same, stagnant, you could say, for 2 decades now.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about almost half of all women of reproductive age in India being anemic.
Wow.
Think about the impact that has on, maternal health, child development, even the economy, the whole thing.
It's almost like we've hit a wall on this issue.
Yeah.
Is it just a case of not enough iron in people's diets?
Well, you see, it's more complicated than that, actually. The study, it suggests that iron deficiency only explains about 1/3 of anemia cases in India.
Really?
There's a huge, we're talking almost 2/3 where, well, we don't know the cause.
Wow.
And that right there, that's a massive research gap. We need to look into that.
Wow, so we're missing a huge piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah.
And for all of you listening who are prepping for UPSC, this is exactly the kind of nuance you need to grasp, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
It's not enough to just say anemia is bad. You need to really show that deeper understanding of the how complicated it is.
Exactly. Precisely. And here's another, another interesting thing the study brings up. The way we measure anemia in India, it could be, well, kind of distorting our data.
Oh, really?
If we use the WHO's recommended method, venous blood samples,
Right.
the prevalence, it seems much lower than when we use capillary blood, from finger pricks,
Yeah.
which is more common in India.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So we might be underestimating the true extent of the problem.
yeah,
That's a bit unsettling, I got to be honest.
it is. Yeah. And it just shows how important accurate data collection is.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
if our numbers are off, then our policies and our interventions are going to be off too.
All right, so anemia is a major concern. But what about those other nutrition targets? Where does India stand on things like stunting?
Well, that's another area where the picture the Lancet study paints is, well, it's pretty stark.
Yeah.
Stunting, in case you need a refresher, it's when, well, a child is too short for their age.
Right.
And it's a sign of chronic malnutrition, and it can have really long-term consequences, for their physical and cognitive development.
And this is something that's largely determined in those first few years of life, right?
Exactly. The study really highlights this crucial window, that first 2 years, where stunting really takes hold.
Right.
In India, it jumps from around 7-8% at birth to a staggering 40% by age 2.
So we're talking about a dramatic increase in just 2 years. This is why early intervention is so critical.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And here's a key point that people often miss, trying to overfeed a child after age 2, to try to catch up on growth. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
In fact, it can lead to a whole other set of problems like, being overweight and obesity.
Okay, so we've got this kind of double whammy, right? Persistent anemia and high rates of stunting that can't be easily reversed.
Yeah.
But the study also, it points to another alarming trend in India, and that's the rise of childhood overweight.
Yes, yes. And this is linked to what the study calls metabolic overnutrition. It's
Yeah.
not just about being overweight, it's about consuming too many calories, often from, unhealthy sources, and at the same time not getting enough of those essential nutrients our bodies need.
So even if kids are getting enough to eat, They might not be getting the right things to eat.
Precisely. It's a recipe for a whole bunch of chronic health problems later in life, things like diabetes, heart disease, the list goes on. And here's the real kicker. The study found that, well, get this, a staggering 50% of Indian children are dealing with this metabolic overnutrition.
50%. That's not just a statistic. That's a warning sign for the health of our entire nation.
Right.
Are we looking at a generation that's basically predisposed to these chronic illnesses?
Yeah. That's the concern, yeah. And, it's not just a health issue. This has implications for, well, our economy, our workforce, our whole societal fabric, really.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
So we've got this this web of challenges, right?
Yeah.
Anemia, stunting, and now this rising tide of metabolic overnutrition. It's a lot.
It is.
But the Lancet study, it doesn't just highlight the problems, does it?
No.
It offers some potential solutions as well, right?
Right.
And for those of you, getting ready for UPSC, this is where it gets really interesting. Knowing the problems is one thing, but being able to explain solutions,
right,
that's what sets you apart in the exam.
Absolutely. This study, it really stresses the need for strategies, multi-pronged strategies that are tailored to the Indian context.
Okay.
One key recommendation is this idea of policy realignment.
Okay.
For example, programs like Poshan Abhiyan. This is, by the way, a flagship national nutrition mission.
Yeah.
Definitely a must-know for your exams.
Right.
It could benefit from, more flexible region-specific approaches.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all policy, we need something more nuanced, something that takes into account the vast dietary and cultural diversity of India.
Right, exactly.
Makes sense to me, but how do we actually put that into action?
Well, think of it this way, like instead of, pushing rice and wheat uniformly across the whole country, we could focus on locally available nutrient-rich options.
Okay.
Like for instance, millets.
Right.
They're incredibly nutritious, they're drought resistant.
Yeah.
They're already a part of, traditional diets in many parts of India.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine, a policy that encourages millet cultivation, encourages people to eat it in regions where it's suitable.
Right.
That's a win-win.
Yeah.
Nutritionally and economically.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Right.
We're talking about like aligning agricultural policy with health policy, taking into account cultural preferences, even factoring in climate resilience with those drought-resistant crops like millets.
Yeah.
This is exactly the kind of like integrated thinking that UPSC examiners love to see.
Precisely. And speaking of integrated approaches, the study also highlights the need to address these systemic gaps in our public distribution system, the PDS.
Right, the PDS, that massive network that provides subsidized food grains to like millions of Indians.
Yeah.
It's a crucial safety net.
It is.
But is it really meeting like our actual nutritional needs?
That's the question, isn't it? The current focus is so heavily on rice and wheat.
Yeah.
Which, they're important, but they don't give you that full range of nutrients.
Right.
The study suggests diversifying the PDS basket.
Okay.
Think pulses, millets, oil seeds, just to make sure people are getting a more balanced diet.
I can see the logic there, but wouldn't this add a huge burden on a system that's already stretched thin?
Yeah.
Like logistically, how do we manage that?
That's a valid concern, and it really underscores the need for careful planning and allocating resources properly.
Yeah.
We need to invest in infrastructure, streamline those supply chains, and maybe even look into, new innovative models like decentralized procurement and distribution.
Okay.
Remember, this isn't just about, adding more food. It's about making the PDS truly nutrition sensitive.
Okay. All right. So policy realignment, revamping the PDS. What else does the study suggest?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of setting these national level targets that are specific to the Indian context. We can't just rely on global benchmarks. We need goals that really reflect our unique challenges and opportunities.
So no more like vague aspirations. We need concrete, measurable targets with clear timelines.
Yeah, exactly.
The kind of targets that you could actually be asked to analyze in a UPSC Mains essay, for example.
Exactly. And these targets shouldn't just be about, bringing down stunting or anemia. They should address the whole spectrum of malnutrition, including this rising trend of metabolic overnutrition.
Okay.
It's got to be comprehensive.
This all makes sense, but let's be real. None of this happens without enough resources.
Right.
How do we convince policymakers to prioritize nutrition,
Right.
especially when there are so many other things they have to spend money on?
Well, that's where future IAS officers come in.
Yeah.
You need to be able to make a strong case for investing in nutrition.
Okay.
And that means going beyond just the moral imperative.
Right.
Which, it's important,
Right.
but it's not always enough to get those budget allocations.
Yeah. So what's the winning argument here?
Think of it as a long-term investment.
Okay.
With actual, tangible returns.
Okay.
A healthy population is a productive population.
Right.
Investing in nutrition, it can lead to, higher productivity, lower healthcare costs,
Right.
and ultimately, more economic growth.
Right.
It's about presenting nutrition as an economic issue, a development issue.
Yeah.
Even a matter of national security.
Wow.
It's about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Showing how these seemingly separate issues are all intertwined.
That's a skill that will serve you well, not just in your UPSC exams, but throughout your careers in the civil services.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the money. It's about political will, effective implementation, and having strong monitoring mechanisms.
Yeah.
We need to keep track of progress, find the gaps, and make changes as we go.
Data-driven decision-making.
Yeah.
Another crucial skill for all you aspiring bureaucrats out there.
Yeah.
We need to go beyond just, anecdotal evidence and really embrace this culture of evidence-based policy.
And this brings us to another key recommendation from the study.
Okay.
Integration.
Okay.
We can't just deal with nutrition in isolation.
Right.
We need to integrate nutrition into all these other policies related to health, agriculture, education, social welfare.
Yeah.
Even urban planning.
So it's not just like the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a whole of government approach. It requires coordination across multiple departments and sectors.
Precisely. For example, imagine incorporating nutrition education into school curriculums.
Right.
Linking nutrition programs of social welfare schemes,
Yeah.
or even incentivizing farmers to grow more diverse and more nutrient-rich crops. The possibilities are endless, really.
It's about breaking down those silos, fostering collaboration across, all these different areas. This is the kind of systemic change that's needed to really address this huge, multifaceted challenge of malnutrition in India.
And that's where your leadership comes in.
Yeah.
The next generation of policymakers and administrators, you have the power to turn these recommendations into reality.
Right.
But before you can lead, you have to learn.
And that's what we're here for. This deep dive, it's just a starting point.
Right.
Keep digging deeper, keep asking questions. And most importantly, keep thinking critically about the issues.
Remember, acing the UPSC exams, that's just the first step.
Right.
The real test, it's in applying your knowledge to solve real-world problems and actually make a difference in people's lives.
We've really gone deep into this, haven't we? From those pretty shocking numbers on anemia and stunting to, all the complexities of metabolic overnutrition. But beyond just knowing the facts, I'm really curious, like, what really stands out to you as the most significant, takeaway from this Lancet study?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the emphasis on this whole paradigm shift. In how we approach nutrition.
Okay.
We need to move beyond just addressing those deficiencies and think about building this whole holistic food system, one that really supports good health for every Indian.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that nutrition, it's not just a health issue. It's connected to, it's woven into every part of development, from agriculture and economics to education and social justice.
Yeah, that's such a crucial point, especially for those of you who are aspiring civil servants, right?
Right.
The UPSC exam, it's all about connecting those dots, seeing that big picture.
Yeah.
Imagine, you're in that exam hall, you're facing an essay question on India's nutrition challenges.
Right.
Could you bring in those insights about agricultural policy, economic disparities, even climate change?
Absolutely.
That's That's the level of like integrated thinking that's really going to stand out to those examiners.
For sure. And remember, it's not just about, spitting back facts.
Yeah.
It's about showing that you can really analyze things, offering those nuanced perspectives and coming up with innovative solutions.
So let's say you're asked to propose a strategy to actually improve nutrition in India.
Okay.
What are some like out of the box ideas?
Right.
Things that go beyond those typical policy recommendations.
Well, one area that I think deserves a lot more attention is the role of behavioral economics.
Oh, interesting.
How can we nudge people towards making healthier choices?
Right.
Could we use like social marketing campaigns
Yeah.
to make nutritious food more appealing?
Yeah.
Could we work with the food industry to reformulate processed foods
Right.
and make them more nutrient dense?
Yeah.
There's a lot of room for creative thinking here.
I like that, using insights from behavioral science to design those more effective interventions.
Exactly.
It's about understanding not just what people should be eating, but why they eat what they eat.
Right.
And how we can influence those choices.
Exactly. And we can't forget about the power of technology.
Oh, right.
Imagine using mobile apps to track what people are eating, to give them personalized nutrition advice, or even to connect people with those local farmers markets.
Right.
It's all about using technology to empower individuals and communities to really take control of their own health.
That's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
And one that's likely to really connect with those UPSC examiners who are looking for those candidates with that forward-thinking mindset.
Yeah, for sure. Remember, the challenges we've been talking about, they are complex.
Yeah.
But they're not impossible to overcome. India has made big strides in reducing malnutrition in recent decades, but we still have a long way to go. It's going to take consistent effort, innovative thinking, and most importantly, I think, dedicated individuals who are truly passionate about making a difference.
And that's where you future IAS officers come in.
Right.
You have the potential to be those change makers.
Yeah.
The leaders who will shape India's nutrition landscape for generations to come.
It's a big responsibility.
Yeah. So as you continue on this UPSC journey, just remember, you're not just preparing for an exam.
Yeah.
You're preparing to serve your nation.
Yes.
And to make a real difference in people's lives.
Well said. This deep dive, it's given you that knowledge, the insights you need to really tackle this challenge head on. Now it's up to you to use it wisely.
And on that note, well, we've come to the end of our deep dive. We really hope you found this exploration of global nutrition targets in India, informative and something that really gets you thinking.
Yeah, and if you're enjoying these deep dives, don't forget to subscribe to the deep dive and share it with your fellow UPSC aspirants. Let's spread the knowledge, empower each other to create a healthier and more equitable India.
Until next time, best of luck on your UPSC journey, and remember, the future of India's nutrition, it's in your hands.